9 बजे शार्प 9, 3 मिनट बाकी। नमः पार्वती पतये हर 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 महादेव। नमोऽस्त्वनन्ताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादाक्षशिरोरुबाहवे सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाय शाश्वते सहस्रकोटियुगधारिणे नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दमूर्तये निष्प्रपञ्चाय शान्ताय निरालम्बाय तेजसे नित्यानन्दाय गुरवे शिष्यसंसारहारिणे भक्तकार्येकदेहाय नमस्ते चित्सदात्मने। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ नमो गुरुभ्यो गुरुपादुकाभ्यो नमः परेभ्यः परपादुकाभ्यः आचार्यसिद्धेश्वरपादुकाभ्यो नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यः। अहिंकारहिंकाररहस्ययुक्ता श्रींकारगुणार्थमहाविभूत्या ओंकारमर्मा प्रतिपादनेभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। होत्राग्निहोत्राग्निहवेशहोत्री होमादिसर्वा कृतिभासमानं यद्ब्रह्म तद्बोधवितारिणीभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। कामादिसर्पव्रजगारुणाभ्यां विवेकवैराग्यनिधिप्रदाभ्यां बोधप्रदाभ्यां द्रुतमोक्षदाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। अनन्तसंसारसमुद्रतारा नौकायिताभ्यां स्थिरभक्तिदाभ्यां जाड्याब्धिसंशोषणवाडवाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम अस्य श्री गुरु गीता स्तोत्र मंत्रस्य भगवान् सदाशिव ऋषिः नानाविधानि छन्दांसि श्री गुरु परमात्मा देवता हम बीजं सह शक्ति क्रोकीलकं श्री गुरु प्रसाद सिद्ध्यर्थे जपे विनियोगः। अथ ध्यानम् हंसाभ्यां परिवृत्तपत्रकमले देव्ये जगत्कारणे विश्वकीर्णमनेकदेहनिलये स्वच्छन्दमात्मेच्छया तद्योदं पदसम्भवं तु चरणं दीपाङ्कुरग्राहिणं प्रत्यक्षाक्षरविग्रहं गुरुपदम् ध्यायेद्विभुं शाश्वतं। सूत उवाच कैलासशिखरे रम्ये भक्तिसन्धाननायकं प्रणम्य पार्वती भक्त्या शङ्करं परिपृच्छति। श्रीदेव्योवाच ॐ नमो देवदेवेश परात्पर जगद्गुरो सदाशिव महादेव गुरुदीक्षां प्रदेहि मे। केन मार्गेण भो स्वामिन् देहि ब्रह्ममयो भवेत् त्वं कृपां कुरु मे स्वामिन् नमामि चरणौ तव। ईश्वर उवाच मम रूपासि देवी त्वं प्रीत्यर्थं वदाम्यहं लोकोपकारकः प्रश्नो न केनापि कृतः पुरा। दुर्लभं त्रिषु लोकेषु तच्छृणुस्व वदाम्यहं गुरुं विना ब्रह्म नान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं वरानने। वेदशास्त्रपुराणानि इतिहासादिकानि च मन्त्रयन्त्रादिविद्याश्च स्मृतिरुच्चाटनादिकम् शैवशाक्तगमादीनि अन्यानि विविधानि च अपभ्रंशकराणीह जीवानां भ्रान्तचेतसाम् यज्ञं व्रतं तपोदानं जपं तीर्थं तथैव च गुरुतत्त्वज्ञविज्ञाय मूढस्तु चरते जना गुरुर्विद्यात्मनो नान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं न संशयः तल्लवर्तं प्रयत्नस्तु कर्तव्यो हि मनीषिभिः गूढविद्या जगन्माया देहे चाज्ञानसम्भवा उदयो यत्प्रकाशेन गुरुशब्देन कथ्यते सर्वपापविशुद्धात्मा श्रीगुरोः पादसेवनात् देहि भवेद्यस्मात् त्वत्कृपार्थं वदामि ते गुरोपादाम्बुजं स्मृत्वा जलं शिरसि धारयेत् तीर्थवगाहस्य सम्प्राप्नोति फलं नरः शोषणं पापपङ्कस्य दीपनं ज्ञानतेजसां गुरुपादोदकं सम्यक् संसारार्णवतारकम् अज्ञानमूलहरणं जन्मकर्मनिवारणं ज्ञानवैराग्यसिद्ध्यर्थं गुरुपादोदकं पीत्वा गुरोरुच्छिष्टभोजनं गुरुमूर्ते सदा ध्यानं गुरुमन्त्रं सदा जपेत् काशीक्षेत्रं तन्निवासो जाह्नवीचरणोदकं गुरुर्विश्वेश्वर साक्षात् तारकं ब्रह्मनिश्चितम् गुरुपादोदकं यत्तो गयासौ सोक्षयो भटः तीर्थराजः प्रयागश्च गुरुमूर्त्यै नमो नमः गुरुमूर्तिं स्मरे नित्यं गुरुनाम सदा जपेत् गुरोराज्ञां प्रकुर्वीत गुरोरन्यन्यभावयेत् गुरुवक्त्रस्थितं ब्रह्म प्राप्यते तत्प्रसादतः गुरुर्ध्यानं सदा कुर्यात् कुलस्त्रीस्वपतेर्यथा स्वाश्रमं च स्वजातिं च स्वकीर्तिपुष्टिवर्धनम् एतत् सर्वं परित्यज्य गुरोरन्यन्यभावयेत् अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो मां सुलभं परमं पदं तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन गुरोराराधनं कुरु त्रैलोक्ये स्फुटभक्तारो देवाद्यसुरपन्नगा गुरोभक्त्रस्थिता विद्या गुरोभक्त्या तु लभ्यते गुकारस्त्वन्धकारश्च ऋकारस्तेज उच्यते अज्ञानग्रासकं ब्रह्म गुरोरेव न संशयः गुकारः प्रथमो वर्णो मायादिगुणभासकः ऋकारो द्वितीयो ब्रह्म मायाभ्रान्तिविनाशनम् एवं गुरुपदं श्रेष्ठं देवानामपि दुर्लभं हा हा हू हू गणश्चैव गन्धर्वैश्च प्रपूज्यते ध्रुवं तेषां च सर्वेषां नास्ति तत्त्वं गुरोः परम् आसनं शयनं वस्त्रं भूषणं वाहनादिकं साधकेन प्रदातव्यं गुरुसन्तोषकारकं गुरोराराधनं कार्यं स्वजीवित्वं निवेदये कर्मणा मनसा वाचा नित्यमाराधयेत् गुरुं दीर्घदण्डं नमस्कृत्य निर्लज्जो गुरुसन्निधौ शरीरम् इन्द्रियं प्राणान् सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् आत्मदारादिकं सर्वं सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् कृमिकीटभस्मविष्टा दुर्गन्धिमलमूत्रकं श्वेतरक्तं त्वचं मांसं वञ्चयेन्न वरानने संसारवृक्षमारूढा पतन्तो नरकार्णवे येन चैवोद्धृता सर्वे तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हेतवे जगतामेव संसारार्णवसेतवे प्रभवे सर्वविद्यानां शम्भवे गुरवे नमः अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः त्वं पिता त्वं च मे माता त्वं बन्धुस्त्वं च देवता संसारप्रतिबोधार्थं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यत्सत्येन जगत्सत्यं यत्प्रकाशेन भाति तत् यदानन्देन नन्दन्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यद्भाति भानुरूपतः प्रियं पुत्रादि यत्प्रीत्या तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः येन चेतायते हीदं चित्तं चेतायते नयं जाग्रत्स्वप्नसुषुप्त्यादि तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य ज्ञानादिदं विश्वं न दृश्यं भिन्नभेदतः सदेकरूपरूपाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्यामतं तस्य मतं मतं यस्य न वेदसः अनन्यभावभावाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य कारणरूपस्य कार्यरूपेण भाति कार्यकारणरूपाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नानारूपमिदं सर्वं न केनाप्यस्ति भिन्नता कार्यकारणता चैव तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यदग्निकमलद्वन्द्वं द्वन्द्वतापनिवारकं तारकं सर्वदापद्भ्य श्रीगुरुं प्रणमाम्यहम् शिवे क्रुद्धे गुरुस्त्राता गुरुक्रुद्धे शिवो नहि तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन श्रीगुरुं शरणं व्रजेत् वन्दे गुरुपदद्वन्द्वं वाङ्मनश्चित्तगोचरं श्वेतरक्तप्रभाभिन्नं शिवशक्त्यात्मकं परम् गुकारं च गुणातीतं ऋकारं रूपवर्जितं गुणातीतस्वरूपं च यो दद्यात् स गुरुस्मृतः आत्रिनेत्र सर्वसाक्षी अचतुर्बाहुरच्युतः वदनो ब्रह्मा गुरु कथिता प्रिय अयं मयांजलिर्बद्धो दयासागरवृद्धये जयग्राहतो जन्तोश्चित्रसंसारमुक्तिभा श्रीगुरो परमं रूपं विवेकचक्षुषोऽमृतं मन्दभाग्या न पश्यन्ति अन्धा सूर्योदयं यथा श्रीनाथचरणद्वन्द्वं यस्यां दिशि विराजते तस्यै दिशे नमस्कुर्यात् भक्त्या प्रतिदिनं प्रिये तस्यै दिशे सततमञ्जलिरेतार्ये प्रक्षिप्यते मुखरितो मधुपैर्बुधश्च जागर्ति यत्र भगवान् गुरुचक्रवर्ती विश्वोदय प्रलय नाटक नित्यसाक्षी श्रीनाथादिगुरुत्रयं गणपतिं पीठत्रयं भैरवम् सिद्धोगं वटुकत्रयं पदयुगं भूतिक्रमं मण्डलम् वीरान्वष्टचतुष्षष्टिनवकं वीरावली पञ्चकम् श्रीमन्मालिनी मन्त्रराजसहितं वन्दे गुरुर्मण्डलम् अभ्यस्तैः सकलैः सुदीर्घमनिलैर्व्याधिप्रदैर्दुष्करैः प्राणायामशतैरनेककरणैः दुःखात्मकैर्दुर्जये यस्मिन्नव्युदिते विनाश्यति बले वायो स्वयं तत्क्षणात् नाप्तुं तत्सहजं स्वभावमनिशं एकं गुरुं स्वदेशिकस्यैव शरीरचिन्तनं भवेदनन्तस्य शिवस्य चिन्तनं स्वदेशिकस्यैव च नामकीर्तनं भवेदनन्तस्य शिवस्य कीर्तनं यत्पादरेणुकणिका कापि संसारवारिधे सेतुवन्दायते नाथं देशिकं तमुपास्महे यस्मादनुग्रहं लब्ध्वा महदज्ञानमुत्सृजे तस्मै श्रीदेशिकेन्द्राय नमश्चाभीष्टसिद्धये आदाब्जं सर्वसंसार दावानलविनाशकं रन्ध्रेषिताम्भोज मध्यस्थं चन्द्रमण्डले अकथादित्रिरेखाब्जे सहस्रदलमण्डले हंसपार्श्वत्रिकोणे च स्मरे तन्मध्यगं गुरुं सकलभुवनसृष्टे कल्पिता शेषपुष्टिर्निखिलनिगमदृष्टे सम्पदां व्यर्थदृष्टे अवगुणपरिमाष्टे तत्पदार्थैकदृष्टिर्भवगुणपरमेष्टिर्मोक्षमार्गैकदृष्टि सकलभुवनरङ्ग स्थापनस्तं वयष्टे सकरुणरसवृष्टे तत्त्वमाला समष्टि सकलसमयसृष्टे सच्चिदानन्ददृष्टे निवसतु मयि नित्यं श्रीगुरुर्दिव्यदृष्टि अग्निशुद्धं समन्तातु परिचकाधिया मन्त्रराजमिमं मन्ये हर्निशं पातु मृत्युतः तदेजति तन्नैजति तद्दूरे तत्समीपके तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य तदु सर्वस्य बाह्यतः अजोऽहमजरोऽहं च अनादिनिधनस्वयम् अविकारश्चिदानन्द अणीयान्महतो महान् अपूर्वाणां परं नित्यं स्वयं ज्योतिर्निरामयं विरजं परमाकाशं ध्रुवमानन्दमव्ययम् श्रुतिप्रत्यक्षमैत्रीयम् अनुमानश्चतुष्टयम् यस्य चात्मतपो वेद ईशिकं मननं यद्भवं कार्यं तद्वदामि महामते साधुत्वं च मया दृष्टं त्वयि तिष्ठति साम्प्रतम् अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः शिरोरत्न विराजितपदाम्बुजः वेदान्ताम्बुजसूर्यो तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण ज्ञानमुत्पद्यते स्वयं य एव सर्वसम्प्राप्ते तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः चैतन्यं शाश्वतं शान्तं व्योमातीतं निरञ्जनं नादबिन्दुकलातीतं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः स्थावरं जङ्गमं चैव तथा चैव चराचरं व्याप्तं येन जगत्सर्वं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः ज्ञानशक्तिसमारूढस्तत्त्वमालाविभूषितः भुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदाताय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः अनेकजन्मसम्प्राप्त सर्वकर्मविदाहिने स्वात्मज्ञानप्रभावेण तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः न गुरोरधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरोरधिकं तपः तत्त्वं ज्ञानात् परं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः मन्नाथ श्रीजगन्नाथो मद्गुरो श्रीजगद्गुरो नमात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः मूलं गुरुर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलं गुरुपदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरुकृपा गुरोरादिरनादिश्च गुरुपरमदैवतं गुरुपरतरं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः सप्तसागरपर्यन्त तीर्थस्नानादिकं फलं रङ्ग्रीपयो बिन्दु सहस्रांशेन दुर्लभम् हरौरुष्टे गुरुस्त्राता गुरोरुष्टेन कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन श्रीगुरुं शरणं व्रजे गुरोरेव जगत्सर्वं ब्रह्म विष्णु शिवात्मकं गुरोपरातरं नास्ति तस्मात् सम्पूजयेत् गुरुं ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं लभ्यते गुरुभक्तितः गुरोपरातरं नास्ति ध्येयोऽसौ गुरुमार्गिभिः यस्मात् परतरं नास्ति नेति नेतीति वै श्रुतिः मनसा वचसा चैव आराधयेत् गुरुं गुरुकृपा प्रसादेन ब्रह्म विष्णु सदाशिव समर्था प्रभभादौ च केवलं गुरुसेवया देवकिन्नरगन्धर्वा पितरो यक्षचारणाः मुनयोऽपि न जानन्ति गुरुशुश्रूषणे विधिं महाहङ्कारगर्वेण तपोविद्यावलान्विताः संसारकुहरावर्ते घटयन्त्रे यथा घटा न मुक्ता देवगन्धर्वा पितरो यक्षकिन्नराः ऋषया सर्वसिद्धाश्च गुरुसेवा परामुखा ध्यानं शृणु महादेवी सर्वानन्दप्रदायकं सर्वसौख्यकरं नित्यं भुक्तिमुक्तिविदायकम् श्रीमत्परब्रह्मगुरुं स्मरामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्मगुरुं वदामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्मगुरुं नमामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्मगुरुं भजामि ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमुक्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वदि साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनं नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम् हृदम्बुजे कर्णिकमद्य संस्थे सिंहासने संस्थितदिव्यमूर्तिं ध्यायेत् गुरुं चन्द्रकलाप्रकाशं चित्पुस्तकाभीष्टवरं दधानं श्वेताम्बरं श्वेतविलेपपुष्पं मुक्ताविभूषं मुदितं द्विनेत्रं वामाङ्गपीठस्थितदेव्यशक्तिं मन्दास्थितं सान्द्रकृपानिधानम् आनन्दमानन्दकरं प्रसन्नं ज्ञानस्वरूपं निजबोधयुक्तं योगीन्द्रमीड्यं भवरोगवैद्यं श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि यस्मिन् सृष्टिस्थितिध्वंस निग्रहानुग्रहात्मकं नित्यं पञ्चविधं शाश्वते तं नमाम्यहम् प्रातः शिरसि शुक्लाब्जे द्विनेत्रं द्विभुजं गुरुं वराभययुतं शान्तं स्मरेत् तं नामपूर्वकम् न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं शिवशासनता 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 इदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं मम शासनतो मम शासनतो मम शासनतो मम शासनतः एवं विधं गुरुं ध्यात्वा ज्ञानमुत्पद्यते स्वयं तत्सद्गुरुप्रसादेन मुक्तोऽहमेति भावये गुरुदर्शितमार्गेण मनःशुद्धिं तु कारयेत् अनित्यं खण्डयेत् सर्वं यत्किञ्चिदात्मगोचरम् ज्ञेयं सर्वं ज्ञानं च मन उच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं समं कुर्यात् नान्यपन्था द्वितीयकः एवं श्रुत्वा महादेवी गुरुनिन्दां करोति यः स याति नरकं घोरं यावच्चन्द्रदिवाकरो यावत्कल्पान्तको देहस्तावदेव गुरुं स्मरे गुरुलोपो न कर्तव्य स्वच्छन्दो यदि वा भवेत् ओङ्कारेण न वक्तव्यं प्राज्ञै शिष्यै कथञ्चन गुरोरग्रे न वक्तव्यम् असत्यं च कदाचन गुरुं त्वङ्कृत्य होङ्कृत्य गुरुं निर्जित्य बाधतः अरण्ये निर्जले देशे स भवेद् ब्रह्मराक्षसः मुनिभिः पन्नगैर्वापि सुरैर्वा शापितो यदि कालमृत्यो भयाद्वापि गुरो रक्षति पार्वती असक्ता हि सुराज्यस्य असक्ता मुनयस्तथा गुरुशापे यान्ति न संशयः मन्त्रराजमिदं देवी गुरुरित्यक्षरद्वयं स्मृतिवेदार्थवाक्येन गुरो साक्षात् परं पदम् श्रुते स्मृति अविज्ञाय केवलं गुरुसेवका ते वै सन्न्यासिनो प्रोक्ता इतरे वेषधारिणा न ब्रह्म निराकारं निर्गुणं बोधयेत् गुरुं सर्वब्रह्म निराभासं दीपो दीपान्तरं यथा गुरो त्वङ्कृत्य आत्मरामं निरीक्षयेत् आब्रह्मस्तम्भपर्यन्तं परमात्मा स्वरूपकं स्थावरं जङ्गमं चैव प्रणमामि जगन्मयं वन्देऽहं सच्चिदानन्दं भेदातीतं सदा गुरुं नित्यं पूर्णं निराकारं निर्गुणं परात् परतरं देयं नित्यमानन्दकारकं हृदयाकाशमध्यस्थं शुद्धस्फटिकसंज्ञकं स्फटिकाप्रतिमारूपं दृश्यते दर्पणे यथा तथात्मनि चिदाकारम् आनन्दं सोऽमित्युता अङ्गुष्ठमात्रपुरतं ध्यायतश्चिन्मयं हृदि तत्र स्फुरति भावो यः शृणोतं कथयाम्यहम् अगोचरं तथा गम्यं नामरूपविवर्जितं निःशब्दं तद्विजानीयात् पार्वती यथा गन्धस्वभावेन कर्पूरकुसुमादिषु शीतोष्णादिस्वभावेन तथा ब्रह्म च शाश्वतं स्वयं तथाविधो भूत्वा स्थातव्यं यत्र कुत्रचित् कीटभ्रमरवत् तत्र ध्यानं भवति तादृशम् गुरुध्यानं तथा कृत्वा स्वयं ब्रह्मामयो भवेत् पिण्डे पदे तथा रूपे मुक्तौ सौ नात्र संशयः। श्रीपार्वती उवाच पिण्डं किं नो महादेव पदं किं समुदाहृतम् उपातीतं च रूपं किम् एतदाख्यायि। श्रीमहादेव उवाच पिण्डं किं नलिनी शक्ति पदं हंसमुदाहृतं रूपं इन्दुरिति गेयम् रूपातीतं निरञ्जनं पिण्डे मुक्ता पदे मुक्ता रूपे मुक्ता वरानने रूपातीते तु ये मुक्ता ते मुक्ता नात्र संशयः। स्वयं सर्वभूत्वा परं तत्त्वं विलोकयेत् तरात् परतरं नान्यत् सर्वमेतन्निरालयम् तस्यावलोकनं प्राप्य सर्वसङ्गविवर्जितम् एकाकी निःस्पृहा शान्तः तिष्ठति तत्प्रसादतः लब्धं वा धनलब्धं वा स्वल्पं वा बहुलं तथा निष्कामिनैव भोक्तव्यं सदा सन्तुष्टचेतसाम् सर्वज्ञपदमित्याहुर् रमते यत्र कुत्रचित् यत्रैव तिष्ठते सोऽपि तदेषा पुण्यभाज क्षणं देवी तवाग्रे कथितं मया उपदेशस्तथा देवी गुरो ज्ञानेन यद्भवेत् कार्यं तद्वदामि महामते लोकोपकारकं देवी लौकिकं तु न भावये लौकिकात् कर्मणो यान्ति हीना वर्णवा ज्ञानी तु भावयेत् सर्वं कर्म निष्कर्म यत्कृतम् इदं तो भक्तिभावेन पठते शृणुते यदि लिखित्वा तत्सर्वं सफलं भवेत् गुरुगीताक्षर शुद्धतत्त्वं योदितं भवव्याधिविनाशार्थं स्वयमेव जपेत् सदा गुरुगीताक्षरैकं तु मन्त्रराजमिमं जपे अन्ये च विविधा मन्त्रा कलां नारन्ति षोडशीम् अनन्तबलमाप्नोति गुरुगीता जपेन तु सर्वपापप्रशमनं सर्वदारिद्र्यनाशनम् कालमृत्युभयहरं सर्वसङ्कटनाशनं यक्षराक्षसभूतानां घोरव्याघ्रः बोधिहरं सर्वं विभूतिसिद्धिदं भवेत् अथवा मोहनं पश्यं स्वयमेव जपेत् सदा वस्त्राचने च दारिद्र्यं पाषाणे रोगसम्भवा मेदिन्यां दुःखमाप्नोति नष्टे भवति निष्फलम् कृष्णार्जुने ज्ञानसिद्धिर्मोक्षश्रीव्याघ्रचर्मणि कुशासदेव्या उपवेशस्ततः जपेदेकाग्रमानसः ध्येयं शुक्लं च शान्त्यर्थं वश्ये रक्तासनं प्रिये अभिचारे कृष्णवर्णं पीतवर्णं धनागमे उत्तरे शान्तिकामस्तु वश्ये पूर्वमुखो जपे दक्षिणे माहरं प्रोक्तं पश्चिमे च धनागमः मोहनं सर्वभूतानां बन्धमोक्षकरं भवे देवराज प्रियकरं सर्वेषां संवनकरं गुणानां च विवर्धनं दुष्कर्मनाशनं चैव सुकर्म सिद्धिदं भवेत् अवग्रह भयापहं दुःस्वप्ननाशनं चैव सुस्वप्नफलदायकं सर्वशान्तिकरं नित्यं तथा वन्द्या सुपुत्रदम् अवैधव्यं करं स्त्रीणां सौभाग्यदायकं सदा आयुरारोग्यवै अकामता श्रीविधवा जपान्मोक्षामवाप्नुयात् अवैधव्यं सकामातु लभते चान्यजन्मनि सर्वदुःखभयं विघ्नं नाशयेच्चापहारकं सर्वबाधाप्रशमनं धर्मार्थकाममोक्षदं यं यं चिन्तयते कामं तं तं प्राप्नोति निश्चितम् चिन्तामणिश्चिन्तितस्य सर्वमङ्गलकारकं मोक्षहेतुर्जपे नित्यं भोगकामो जपेद्यो वै तस्य कामफलप्रदम् अद्वैतश्च सौरश्च गणपत्यश्च वैष्णवः शैवश्च सिद्धिदं देवी सत्यं सत्यं न संशयः अथ काम्य जपे स्थानं कथयामि वरानने सागरे वा सरितीरे अथवा हरिहरालये शक्तिदेवालये गोष्ठे सर्वदेवालये शुभे भटे च दातृमूले वा मठे वृन्दावने तथा पवित्रे निर्मले स्थाने नित्यानुष्ठानतोऽपि वा निर्वेदनेन मौनेन जपमेतं समाचरे श्मशाने वयभूमौ तु वटमूलान्तिके तथा सिद्ध्यन्ति धौतरे मूले च्यूतवृक्षस्य सन्निधौ गुरुपुत्रो वरं मूर्खस्तस्य सिद्ध्यन्ति नान्यथा शुभकर्माणि सर्वाणि दीक्षाव्रता तपांसि च संसारमलनाशार्थं भवपाशनिवृत्तये तत्त्वज्ञा कुरुते सदा सदा स्वद्ब्रह्मवित्तमः कस्य स्थानानि सर्वाणि पवित्राणि न सन्ति पित्रोऽसौ स्वभावाज्ञं तिष्ठति तत्र देवगणा सर्वे क्षेत्रे पीठे वसन्ति आसनस्थशयानो वा गच्छन् तिष्ठन् वदन्नपि अश्वारूढो गजारूढ सुप्तो वा जाग्रतोऽपि शुचिस्माश्च सदा ज्ञानी गुरुगीता जपेन तु पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते समुद्रे च यथा तोयं क्षीरे क्षीरं घृते घृतं भिन्ने कुम्भे यथा भवात्मा परमात्मनि तथैव ज्ञानी जीवात्मा परमात्मनि लीयते ऐक्येन रमते ज्ञानी यत्र तत्र विमानिशम् एवं विदो महामुक्तः सर्वदा वर्तते बुधा तस्य सर्वप्रयत्नेन भावभक्तिं करोति यः सर्वसन्देहरहितो मुक्तो भवति पार्वती भुक्तिमुक्तिद्वयं तस्य जीवाग्रे च सरस्वती अनेन प्राणिना सर्वे युक्तिभूता जपेन तु सर्वसिद्धिं प्राप्नुवन्ति भुक्तिमुक्तिं न संशयः सत्यं सत्यं पुनः सत्यं धर्म्यं सांख्यं मयोदितं गुरुगीता समं नास्ति सत्यं सत्यं वरानने एको देव एकधर्म एकनिष्ठा परं तपः गुरुपरातरं नान्यत् नास्ति तत्त्वं गुरुपरं कुलं तथा धन्या च वसुधा देवी गुरुभक्ति सुदुर्लभा शरीरम् इन्द्रियं प्राणश्चार्थः स्वजनबान्धवा माता पिता कुलं देवी गुरोरेव न संशयः आकल्पजन्मनां कोट्या जपव्रता तपाक्रिया तत्सर्वं सफलं गुरुसन्तोषमात्रतः तद्यावलोत मन्दभाग्याशये नरा गुरुसेवां न कुर्वन्ति सत्यं सत्यं वरानने विष्णु महेशाश्च देवर्षि पितृकिन्नरा सिद्धचारणयक्षाश्च अन्येऽपि मुनयो जना गुरुभाव परं तीर्थम् अन्यतीर्थानि सर्वतीर्थाश्रयो देवी पादाङ्गुष्ठं च वर्तते जपेन जयमाप्नोति चानन्तफलमाप्नुयात् हीनकर्मा त्यजन् सर्वं स्थानानि च दमानि च जपं हीनासनं कुर्वन् हीनकर्मा फलप्रदं गुरुगीता प्रयाणेव संग्रामे रिपुसङ्कटे सर्वकर्मा च सर्वत्र गुरुपुत्रस्य सिद्ध्यति इदं रहस्यं नो वाच्यं तवाग्रे कथितं मया सुगोप्यं च प्रयत्नेन मम त्वं च प्रियात्विति स्वामी मुख्य गणेशादि विष्णुवादिनां च पार्वती मनसापि न वक्तव्यं सत्यं सत्यं वदाम्यहम् अतीवपक्वचित्ताय श्रद्धा भक्तियुताय च प्रवक्तव्यमिदं देवी त्वमात्मासि सदा प्रिये अवक्ते वञ्चके धूर्ते पाखण्डे नास्तिके नरे मनसापि न वक्तव्यं संसारसा प्रणैकमन्त्रं ब्रह्मादिदेवमुनिपूजितसे मन्त्रं दारिद्र्यदुःखभवरोगविनाशमन्त्रं वन्दे मा इति श्रीस्कन्दपुराणे उत्तरखण्डे ईश्वरपार्वती संवादे गुरुगीता समाप्ता। श्रीगुरुदेव चरणार्पणमस्तु। नित्यानन्दाय गुरवे शिष्यसंसारहारिणे भक्तकार्ये कदेहाय नमस्ते चित्तदात्मने। निर्वासनं निराकाङ्क्षं सर्वदोषविवर्जितं निरालम्बं निरातङ्कं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहं। निर्ममं निरहङ्कारं समलोष्टात्मकाञ्चनं समदुःखसुखं धीरम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम्। अविनाशिनमात्मानम् एकं विज्ञाय तत्त्वतः वीतरागभयक्रोधं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम्। नयं देहो न मे देहो जीवो नाहमहमि चेत् एवं ध्याय सन्तुष्टम् अवधूतं समस्तं कल्पनामात्रम् आत्मा मुक्ता सनातना। एते विज्ञाय सन्तृप्तं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम्। ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं कामसङ्कल्पवर्जितं येयोपादेयहीनं तम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम्। स्वभावेनैव यो योगी सुखं भोगं न वाञ्छति यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम्। नैव निन्दा प्रशंसाभ्यां यस्य विक्रियते मनः आत्मक्रीडं महात्मानं अवधूतं नमाम्यहम्। नित्यं जाग्रदवस्थायां स्वप्नवद्योऽवतिष्ठते निश्चिन्तं चिन्मयात्मानं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम्। द्वेष्यं नास्ति प्रियं नास्ति नास्ति रक्षतु वासवम् वेदज्ञानविहीनं तम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम्। जडं पश्यति नो यस्तु जगत्पश्यति चिन्मयम् नित्ययुक्तं गुणातीतं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम्। यो हि दर्शनमात्रेण पवते भुवनत्रयम् पावनं समं अवधूतं नमाम्यहम्। सर्वपूज्यं सदा पूर्णम् अखण्डानन्दविग्रहं स्वप्रकाशं चिदानन्दं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम्। निष्कलं निष्क्रियं शान्तं निर्मलं परमामृतं गणेशपुरीवासिनम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम्। योगपूर्णं तपोमूर्तिं प्रेमपूर्णं सुदर्शनं नित्यकामूर्तिं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम्। दुर्जनः सज्जनो भूयात् सज्जनः शान्तिमाप्नुयात् शान्तो मुच्येत बन्धेभ्यो मुक्ता शान्यान् विमोक्ष्य। स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्याय्येन मार्गेण महीमहीषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं शोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् सर्वस्तरतु दुर्गाणि सर्वो भद्राणि पश्यतु सर्वकामान् अवाप्नोतु सर्वत्र नन्वतु स्वस्ति मात्रौ त पितॄन् अस्तु स्वस्ति गोभ्यो जगते पुरुषेभ्यः विश्वासभूतं सुविधात्रं नो अस्तु योगे वदृशेमसु ॐ शान्ति 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 आरती करूं सद्गुरु की करूं सद्गुरु के प्यारे गुरुवर की आरती करूं गुरुवर की आरती करूं सद्गुरु की सद्गुरु के प्यारे गुरुवर की आरती करूं गुरुवर की जय गुरुदेव मलनाथे ज्ञान रूप तरके वासी जय गुरुदेव मल पग पग पर देते प्रकाश जैसे किरण दिनकर के आरती करूं गुरुवर की आरती करूं सद्गुरु की करूं सद्गुरु के प्यारे गुरुवर की आरती करूं गुरुवर की शरण तुम्हारे आए अमृत से मीठे फल पाए से शरण तुम्हारे आए अमृत से मीठे फल पाए शरण तुम्हारे क्या है छाया कल्प वृक्ष तरुवर के आरती करूं गुरुवर की आरती करूं सद्गुरु के पर सद्गुरु के पर आरती करूं गुरुवर के ब्रह्म ज्ञान के पूर्ण प्रकाशक योग ज्ञान के अटल प्रवर्तक ब्रह्म के पूर्ण प्रकाशक योग ज्ञान के अटल प्रवर्तक जय गुरु चरण सरोज मिटा व्यथा हमारे ओर की आरती करूं गुरु के करूं सद्गुरु के प्यारे गुरुवर की आरती दिखलाया है हमारा उजाला। अब ते जाने जा न रहे थे आक सुनो दर दर के आरती करूं, आरती करूं सद्गुरु के प्यारे गुरुवर, आरती करूं गुरुवर के। संशय मिटा विवेक करा भव सागर से पार लगा। संशय मिटा विवेक करा भव सागर से पार लगा। हमारा प्रदीप जला कर कर निशा दूर इस तन के, आरती करूं गुरुवर, आरती करूं सद्गुरु की करूं सद्गुरु के गुरुवर की, आरती करूं गुरु। वेदों विच वेद बताया आवागमन विमुक्त करा। वेदों विच वेद बता आवागमन विमुक्त कर। धन्य हुए हम पाकर दास ब्रह्म ज्ञान निरजर के, आरती करूं गुरुवर, आरती करूं सद्गुरु की करूं सद्गुरु हरे गुरुवर की, आरती करूं करो कृपा सद्गुरु जगता तत्पथ दर्शक भ्रांति निवास। करो कृपा सद्गुरु जगता तत्पथ दर्शक भ्रांति निवास। नित्य ज्योति दिखला पाले लीलाधर के, आरती करूं गुरुवर के, आरती करूं सद्गुरु की करूं सद्गुरु के प्यारे गुरुवर की, आरती करूं गुरुवर के। नित्यानंद सद्गुरु भक्तिपात के दिव्य मुक्तानंद सद्गुरुदास भक्तिपात के दिव्य प्रदान। कर के बात गणेश पुरी भव बाधा हरले धन की, आरती करूं आरती करूं सद्गुरु की करूं सद्गुरु के प्यारे गुरुवर की, आरती करूं गुरुवर की। ओम चैतन्यं शाश्वतं शान्तं व्योमातीतं निरञ्जनं नादबिन्दुकलातीतं तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Muktanandaya Gurave Shisha Samsara Harine Bhakta Kaye Kadehaya Namaste Chitsaratmane Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachidananda Murtaye Nishpapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe Om Shanti 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 Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everybody who's present here at Shanti Mandir this Sunday for Sunday Satsang, and all of you who are watching via live stream. So we're like a quiet week since Gurudev departed. It was Monday, right? Monday? Yeah. What a visit. What a visit. I really encourage you to come and be here when Gurudev's here. He was very much available and very personable and just everywhere, and lots of fun. We had really lots of fun. So I was remembering a couple of things he said last Sunday, and they were kind of key things which are part of what I wanted to talk about today. We're going back to the Spandakarika now. You remember the Spandakarikas? And I know some of you have been studying, and those of you who are at home may be taking notes and looking at your books, because that's fine, that's good. And we're exploring that commentary by Vasugupta on the Shiva Sutras. This is the Shiva Sutras, and you have the Spandakarika, but Shiva Sutras is one of the main texts of Kashmir Shaivism, and we studied that a lot. The Spandakarika is the first time we're doing that, and it's a very sort of almost a synopsis, and it's from the point of view of Shakti or Spanda. The Shiva Sutras are more from the point of view of Shiva, the passive potential, unlimited potential from which everything is expressed. So it's really talking about self. But with Spandakarika, we're talking about Spanda, this universal consciousness that is always creating, sustaining, dissolving, and hiding herself, and then giving grace to reveal the oneness that's inherent in everything. So it's a wonderful image, or paradigm, you could say, of the universe and life. And that especially since it says at any moment and every moment we can experience this Spanda principle, which is really our own true nature. And this idea that we are the body and the mind, and this character in this life is just kind of an illusion, but also an emanation of that same Spanda principle. So it's like a full circle, and something you really just have to keep puzzling over and meditating. Because when we meditate, we go deep into that Spanda principle, then the impression of oneness becomes predominant. And the impression of duality and separateness and smallness gets dissolved. And so the idea is we're dissolving the one who thinks he's only this into the absolute consciousness. So the two things that Gurudev said that last Sunday, one was, I think it was the words were, give up the nonsense. Is that what it was? Give up the nonsense. And so that's sort of a very broad term with, it's like, cut the crap, just stop, doing things that are worthless, stop wasting your time, stop being attached to things, stop gossiping, stop, create a focus, know what you're doing here, and apply yourself. Do sadhana, share what you know, make something of the time that you have. So that's been his message for quite a while now. And the other thing was, he sang a poem from Tukaram that said, basically, may I never forget you. May I never forget you. Tukaram's prayer to Vital. So there's these two things together. One is give up the nonsense, which you could see is the limited individuality. And then may I never forget you, which is that Spanda principle. So it's so simple, right? So simple. That's it in a nutshell. So that's what the talk is about today. We're talking about the fourth sutra of Spandakarika. What time I'll finish? Okay. I brought a garland with me. This is my prop today. It's a symbol that they like to use, the yogis, the sages like to use metaphors. We know the metaphor of the ocean and the waves, right? Always we think we're a wave, but we're just part of the ocean. And it's a very good metaphor for Kashmir Shaivism, because we are itself, our individuality itself is arising and subsiding like a wave. And moment to moment, there are different emanations in our minds. And so our individuality, our ego, our thoughts, our feelings, our desires, our attachments, the pleasure and the pain are being emanated, they're rising, they're subsiding. One arises, another replaces it, and it subsides. It's there for a few seconds. This is the creative process. This is the activity of the Spanda principle. And so in this sutra, number 4, it says, aham sukhi cha dukkhi cha raktas cha ityadi samvida. Sukha dhya vastanus yute vartante nyatra ta sputam. I am happy, I am miserable. So this is the individual talking. I am happy, I am miserable, I'm attached. These and other cognitions, and now we can think back to the Yoga Sutras, cognitions, vrittis, modifications of the mind. We're talking about these emanations of the mind that Yoga Sutra says we have to bring the mind to stillness, bring the mind to calmness, and then we're resting in essential nature. I am happy, I am miserable, I am attached. These and other cognitions have their being evidently in another, in which the states of happiness, misery, etc. are strung together, like flowers on a garland. Here we have it. So we could say one of these flowers is I'm happy, and then the next one is I'm miserable. So, sukkah, dukkha. These are classic words in the yoga scriptures. Sukha, dukkha, and they always go together. You can't, and this world is never all sukha, never all happiness, nor is it all pain. It's a mixture. This is the mixed reality here that we're involved in. So we're meant to be even-minded in pleasure and pain, right? And we have to think about why should we be even-minded in pleasure or pain? Because we want even-mindedness, right? We want the mind to become still. We want to immerse the individuality in the absolute, in the spanda. Where is the spanda? Where is the self? In this metaphor, it's the string on which the garland is strung. So we are like a garland. Our life is like a garland. Our the changes that take place in our minds, the different experiences that we have are all arising and subsiding like these flowers on the garland. And where are they strung? What are they strung upon? What is the basis for that? The basis is the aham, I am. So our sense of being, existence, is steady and absolute. It says, I am happy, I am miserable, I am attached. These and other cognitions have their being evidently in another, in which the states of happiness and misery are strung together. So the word in another, in other words, is there another in the sense of when we think of the self, we do think of it as another, right? Don't you? I mean, some of you are advanced yogis and you'll tell me, no, I am the self. But when we think about it, well, where is God? We think, oh, I'm thinking of God. I'm thinking of the self. So in a very actual sense, this sutra is saying that limited I that's arising and being sustained and then arises in another, with another feeling attached to it, is actually resting in that supreme consciousness. And because we're in this limited state of consciousness, or because Shiva has created this illusion of limited consciousness, and he himself taken this limited form, we have forgotten that true nature. So we have forgotten this string, right? So we get caught up in the, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm miserable, I'm depressed. It's always arising and subsiding. So then the mind, the agitation of the mind keeps us externalized, right? So we're looking for happiness and we're avoiding pain. We're looking for sukkah and we're avoiding dukkha. But the reality is the string, the aham, the I am, is always there. It's always underneath sukha or dukkha. It's the basis for that, which he says they have their being in another. In a sense, it's the other, but it's really me. It's the real me. Is that clear? It's quite a wonderful idea, right? So you can then think about, well, how do I use this? Okay, well, when the mind is like, in a way, is like a wheel, like this garland, and we have experiences, we're having experiences now. We're hearing the voice, we're having the thoughts. All this is arising in the mind, and it's all arising, subsiding, but it has its existence, a basis in aham. And we think about it when we go to sleep at night, we dream for a while, and that's more sukha, dukkha, etc. Right? Experiences of pleasure and pain in the dream state, imaginary experiences, memory gathered from memory and projected on the screen of the mind, and the I is still there saying, I'm experiencing that, I'm afraid, I'm happy, I'm angry, I'm sad. These people are doing this to me, but all those are objects, all those are emanations of the mind, correct? So again, they're just flowers on the string of the garland. But when we go into deep sleep, what happens then? Everything dissolves. Even this limited I dissolves. The character who's having the dream and all the characters that have been created are all gone. So we go into this state of deep sleep in which it's Anandamaya kosha, the kosha of Ananda, which is close to the self, but the self is the basis for which even it is supported and exists. So all this, the whole idea is like the waves on the ocean. Everything has its basis and its support in the supreme consciousness. So we can watch our day and see what's arising and subsiding in the mind, and we're meant to look for the string, look for the basis, look for the underlying spanda principle. All these experiences are arising via spanda because only spanda exists. There is no other. There is no duality. There is no. So this is a subtle philosophy, right? This is something we really have to contemplate. And so these metaphors and these shloka? Karika. These karikas are very, very helpful because they give us something to hold on to. Think about the Garland. Ingrid.
Why does Shiva do it that way? That where in that duality, when we realize it's all Shiva, and but it's that sort of illusion we all, really think we're individuals.
Why does Shiva do it that way? Why does he create this illusion? We'd have to ask Shiva. Why would he do that? Why would you possibly do this? Well, just for fun, right? It's supposed to be the play of consciousness, the ananda, out of her own free will, on her own screen, this world is projected, like absolute swatantra free will. So it's her own desire to just create, and like a painter creates a play on a canvas, but the canvas is herself. So that's the reason they give. It's just because it's the nature to create, the nature to create the limitation, and the nature then to sustain it, and then to reveal the oneness. So then the oneness can be revealed at any moment. We have a taste of the oneness. We're talking about this subject, and the oneness is starting to vibrate, and the separateness is starting to get thinner. And the more we contemplate this mystery and delve into, it's not enough to think about it, but we have to practice it. We have to really go in meditation. It gives us a very a very good tool, like sort of a device in which to see better, see more clearly, see what we're looking for. We're looking for that reality that underlies all of this. So we get tossed back and forth by these phenomenon. Once I was driving on one of the highways going to the airport, Highway 17, and I was talking to the person next to me. I'm driving and talking. We're excited, and there's like, okay, this is sukkah. Sukkah is happening. Oh yeah, great. Excited and driving, and the traffic's going very fast, and it's like 75 miles an hour. Everybody's going 75, and then we come down this curve, and we go faster. So this is a speed trap, right? Going down the highway, and now I'm looking at the speedometer. Happened to look, it's 82, and then I see the cop, and we better slow down quickly. So quickly, the experience becomes more dukkha than sukkah. And so the mind is contracting and having this experience, and I see the lights flashing in my rearview mirror, and then it's like, oh. So then the mind gets contracted, and we have this experience all the time, right? We can be just as happy as can be. There's so much sukha, so much joy, and then someone says something, and it dissolves. But what's there all the time? You're still there, right? The self is still there. So then, of course, the cop's coming behind me. Yeah, okay, yeah, for sure. And then there's all the thought that goes with it, and the feelings. The thoughts come with feelings, and the feelings are powerful, and they're some fear, some anxiety. Then they're thinking, well, okay, I got to find the stop, and the cop, looking for the license and the registration and everything, and then comes to the window and says, well, the usual questions. Do you know how fast you were going? I think I was going 75. So you were going faster than that? You're in the right-hand lane and you're passing traffic. I'm about to say, no, I wasn't. And I just kept quiet, gave him the papers, and I'm talking to this boy. I think I'm going to get a ticket. This is going to be an expensive ticket. So I'm going, so then the contraction is there, but it's trying to stay even. And the officer comes back, hands me the papers and says, I'm going to give you a warning this time and just slow down. Oh, thank you, officer. Sukkah comes back instantly. Relief, sukkah. Boy, that was a close one. And then we're talking. And so this is the way our lives go. We're tossed and turned by this sukkha, dukkha. And these are mental states. So they say the yogi should be even-minded in pleasure and pain. The Bhagavan Nityananda, in the Nityananda Arati, says, even-minded, pleasure and pain. Everything is the same. Everything is even. But we find that the dukkha, the painful experiences, will bring us into the interest in meditating on the self. Correct? So when we're in a state of pain or continuous pain or trauma, something's happening in our lives, then that's when we tend to go there. And this is a very important point. Kabir had this notion, this thought about this process. There's pleasure and there's pain. There's this space in between that we can be aware of. But there's the idea of practice. So when we practice, we're not thrown off by the pleasure and pain. We maintain evenness, and even in the midst of pleasure and pain, which, we're not always able to do that because our practice is not deep enough. But as we continue to do that, then the mind becomes more still, becomes more quiet, becomes more grounded. And that's when we can tell that our practice, as Gurudev said, our practice is rooted and firm. Kabir says, dukkha me simirana sabha kare, sukha me kare na koi. Jo sukha me simirana kare, to dukkha kahe ko hoy. He says, in painful times, everyone prays to God. So, right? Things are bad. We take refuge. We meditate. We use the tools we have. We go within and we pray. In joyful times, no one does this. So this is kind of like the trick of the Shakti, of the Maya. When we give us some pleasure, it's, we forget all about God. So when pleasure is there, God is gone. When pain is there, we're thinking of God. We're thinking of the self. Quite extraordinary, right? So Kabir gives us a great insight. He says, to one who prays in happiness, how can sorrow come? So one who prays in happiness, how can sorrow come? So if we've immersed ourselves in the self and we've familiarized ourselves with the substratum, with the string and the garland of the sukkah and dukkha, so that we pray even when a dukkha flower comes up. When a sukkha flower comes up, we're praying. When a dukkha flower comes up, sukha, dukkha, etc., then we're always immersing ourselves there. Then how can sorrow come to such a person? Interesting, right? Is that clear? Yeah. So I have a Nasruddin story for you. Nasruddin was on a ship, and it was like a small cruise liner. And the ship was in trouble. It was a big storm, and he's there, and he's watching this scene, and the people are getting very, very worried and anxious, and only Nasruddin is calm. And they start praying and repenting, promising to make all kinds of amends. Now, I realized as I inserted this story that it's kind of the timing is a little, the submarine getting lost a couple of days ago. And everybody was talking about that, and it was, I couldn't help but think of what would it have been like in that. So all the incident. There was a small submarine on which tourists were taken very deep into the ocean to see the Titanic. So they paid a lot of money for this, and basically the submarine was lost. So there was a period there in which all the news was saying that they're trying to find the submarine, and the air is running out, and the time is running out, and finally it was destroyed. So in the process of that happening, I couldn't help but think, what would it be like? What would it have been like in that submarine as the end was obviously coming? Would people have been calm? Would they have been, what state would they have been in? What would my state have been? So Nasruddin's on this same kind of ship. It's a liner. It's on the water. The people are praying and repenting, promising to make all kinds of amends, crying, being very upset. He said if they could only be saved, they would make this resolution, this amend, they would do that, which is what we tend to do. Only Nasruddin was unmoved. Suddenly, in the midst of the panic, he shouted, "Steady now, friends. Don't change your ways too quickly. Don't be too prodigal. I think I see land." Okay. So here we are. The dukkha is really thick, so thick that people were saying, "I'm going to change my whole life. I'm going to finally do the things I knew I was supposed to be doing. I'm going to get on the right path. I'm going to make resolutions. I'm going to do all the things I should be doing." And then Nasruddin says, no, don't be too quick. I think I see land. So this dukkha is going away, and sukkah has come. So everybody's celebrating. Oh, land! They're so happy. They're so relieved. They're so happy. So this is life, right? And so we forget in happiness. So in a way, the painful experiences are better for us. They do us a favor to push us to look deeper, to look for the string on the garland of sukkha, dukkha, because the garland is a substratum of all that. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, "Sukha dukkhe samme kirtva labha labhau jayau tato yujaya yujyasa naivam papam avapyasi." He says, fight for the sake of duty, O Arjuna, treating alike happiness and distress. So in the midst of happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, fulfill your responsibility and you'll never incur sin. You'll never incur negative karma. You'll be even-minded. And the mind can become still. And for the Kashmir Shaivism paradigm, we can then, in that even-mindedness, we can be aware of the spanda in the whole process all the time. So I'm going to see if anybody has any questions now. Does anybody have a question? Let's sit quietly for a minute and contemplate this. So see if we can locate this process within us. What's really, the idea, we're thinking of the garland of sukha and dukkha, pleasure and painful experiences. And the basis of that. So we can see the experience in the mind and witness it. And become still. become aware of aham, I am. And even as the thought may bubble up, an experience arises and subsides, the support for that experience is our being. And that aham, our pure being, which is blissful, is the basis for all experience. And as the Spanda principle arises and subsides in the form of all these perceptions and experiences, we remain untouched. As a self. Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mata parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sudre mani gana iva. He says there's nothing higher than myself. So this we can see, Krishna is the Spanda principle itself speaking. He says everything rests in me as beads are strung on a thread. It's a wonderful image to keep in mind. And the main intention of this, creating this image for us in this fourth sutra, is to let us know that even in the experience of pleasure and pain, as he's previously said in the experience of sleep, waking, and deep sleep, the self is the substratum under all of that in its untainted cannot be disturbed, cannot be limited, even though there's the appearance, there's the seemingly assumption of limitation, that we're not really limited. And so then that principle that's being described here, and that from which Lord Krishna is speaking, is highly worthy of investigation. They give an interesting term. We should investigate that principle. So we should try to perceive that by becoming still and watching every moment of our experience. So here he's pointing out that even in a crisis, even in an experience of great joy, this is kind of a radical approach to the experience of yoga, to the practice of yoga. That we're not really asked to just stop everything, to go into a cave and to shut down completely, but that in the midst of and in between the experiences of pleasure and pain, this self is still there. It's unlimited, even though there may be the experience of limitation. So it's a very, very good practice, and the mind has to become quite sublime and subtle to do this. So we've been discussing these things for a long time, and we've gone through the Yoga Sutras, the Shiva Sutras, the Spandakarika, the Pratyabhidya Hridaya, many things. So our minds have gotten to the point where we can do this, and the mind becomes trained and subtle, and then it changes, so the buddhi becomes the intellect of the part of the mind that discriminates and perceives subtle principles, is becoming astute enough so that it's through the changes taking place through sadhana that we can perform these more subtle practices or recommendations. So in the midst of pleasure and pain, which is the nature of life, we can't deny that there is pleasure and pain, but the yogi is even-minded in that pleasure or pain, because he knows, as Krishna says, everything is rests in me, as beads are strung on a string, on a thread, or flowers are strung on a garland, on a string. So we wonder, why is it so difficult then? Why does it seem to take a while? It's not easy. And Baba talks a little bit about that, so I wanted to read something from Where Are You Going? He says, for so many years you have been living in the awareness, I am individual. So for so many years, and now many of us have been doing practice sadhana for many years. So he's talking about many years before that. Now you've been changing your ways. You've made your resolutions. You've changed your practice. You have a solid practice, and you're firmly immersed in that. But he says, so for many years you had been living in the awareness, I am an individual. And this is why it's very difficult for you to immediately accept the awareness, I am God. You have been filling your mind with negative thoughts and feelings about other people, about yourself, and that's Gurudev saying, give up the nonsense. So if we're still holding on to the nonsense, we're doing what Gurudev Baba is saying here. Negative thoughts about other people and about yourself, thinking you are small, that you are weak. And we all are subject to these moods and feelings, right? These are real factors in our experience that color our experience and make us feel more limited and moving us in the wrong direction. So in the midst of those feelings, even if we can move the mind towards stillness by using the mantra and by doing the practices we know, we're changing the landscape of the mind. He said, you have spent your life trapped in limited identification. If your body is beautiful, you think you are beautiful. Whereas if it's ugly, you think you are ugly. You think you are ugly. It's the body that's ugly, not you. You are for your consciousness. You think you are ugly. If you study, you think you are learned. Whereas if you do not study, you consider yourself illiterate. This is all familiar, right? When anger, greed, and attachment arise in you, you identify yourself with them. So all these things, they become attached to the ego. That's me, that's me. And so it takes a lot, Baba's saying it takes a lot of effort to change this. And even if we think we're changed, as Gurudev said, not so fast. The police comes up, the light is in the rear of your mirror, and it's like, oh, something's happening. They arise in you and you identify with them. This is ego, the sense of limited individuality, which has trapped you for innumerable lifetimes. So here you get the idea, well, this is a big job. Innumerable lifetimes. Fortunately, there is grace, so that this Spanda Shakti comes as the grace bestowing power in the form of the Guru, and so helps us, lifts us, gives us awakening, gives us Shakti, gives us a mantra, and takes care of us and moves us forward. He said, to rid yourself of this limited I sense, to purify your mind and heart, the mind and the heart. So it's not just thoughts, but it's the feelings, these strong feelings. So that you can accept the awareness, I am consciousness, you have to meditate. Repeat the mantra, perform good actions. But if you really want to do these things, want these things to bear fruit, you should do them with the awareness of your identity with consciousness. So this is where Shaivism comes in. With the awareness, I am consciousness. I'm not just an individual meditating on something separate from me. I'm meditating on consciousness. I am consciousness meditating on consciousness. You're breaking the cycle of the ego and the wrong identification. You should practice the sadhana of Shiva, the sadhana of identification with the truth. Keep your mind immersed in the idea of Shivoham, I am Shiva, Soham, I am that. You should have this understanding that it is God who is meditating. All the objects of my meditation are God. The meditation itself is God. When you have this awareness, then you can practice your sadhana anywhere, at any time. You will not have to close your eyes or still your mind, because when you have this awareness, even the ordinary activities of your daily life, all this will become meditation. You will begin to experience the truth spontaneously, whatever you are doing. So there's a poem by Tukaram which expresses the state that is being prescribed to us, and the relationship between this individual that's meant to be the proposition that's given by these sages of Kashmir Shaivism is that we immerse this individuality in the one. The feeling of separateness can be dissolved if we just surrender that. Sharidam Havihi is the sutra, that the idea of the body is the offering to consciousness. And Tukaram's saying here in this poem, I did that. He says, Deva maza mi deva cha, hichi satya maze vacha, Deva maza mi deva cha, hicha satya maze vacha, Deva maza mi deva cha. So he says, from this point of view of oneness, having attained this, he says, God is mine and I am his. And this could just be the attitude that Baba's prescribing here in this paragraph I just read. We can have this kind of attitude, but he's talking about the actual experience, I think. He says, God is mine and I am his. He lives in me, I live in him. I speak the truth. What I'm saying is true. This is the absolute truth. When I went deep within myself to see God, I myself became God. So the duality is an illusion. That Shaivism says there is only one. There is Spanda Shakti that's immersed, that's emitting all this, that's constantly creating, sustaining, dissolving, and then bestowing grace on itself and revealing oneness. Tukaram says, now I am blessed. I have become sacred. I have become perfect. Because today I met Vitala. I became him right inside my heart. Sadhgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.
Mere Nityananda Dhar Bar Bar Namaskar Mere Dhar Bar Bar Namaskar Mere Nityananda Dhar Bar Bar Namaskar Mere Nityananda Dhar Bar Bar Namaskar Bar Bar Namaskar Sarva Dhar Namaskar Bar Bar Namaskar Sarva Dhar Namaskar Bar Bar Namaskar नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार बार 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 नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार 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 नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंदाधार बार बार नमस्कार नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार। नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार। तेरे नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वधार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार। बार नमस्कार सर्वा दार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वा दार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद दार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद दार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वा दार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वा दार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद दार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद दार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वा दार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वा दार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद दार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद दार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वा दार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वा दार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद दार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दाता बार बार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दातार बार बार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दाता बार बार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दातार बार बार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दातार बार बार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दातार बार बार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दातार बार बार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दातार बार बार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार। बार बार नमस्कार सर्वाधार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दातार बार बार नमस्कार। मेरे नित्यानंद दातार बार 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 नमस्कार सर्वदा नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वदा नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वदा नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वदा नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद बार 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 नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार नमस्कार बार नमस्कार सर्वदा नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार सर्वदा नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद आधार बार बार 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 नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार मेरे नित्यानंद धार बार बार नमस्कार
धन्य धन्य हो प्रदक्षिणा सद्गुरु याची झाली त्वया सुरवया विमान उत्तरायाची पदोपदी अपाय झाल्या पुण्याच्या राशी पदोपदी अपाय झाल्या पुण्याच्या राशी सर्व तीर्थे घडली आम्हा आदि करुणिकाशी धन्य धन्य हो प्रदक्षिणा सद्गुरायाची झाली त्वया सुरवया विमान उत्तरायाची मृदंग टाल घोड भक्ता भावाचे गाती मृदंग टाल घोड भक्ता भावाचे गाती नाम संकीर्तने ब्रह्मानंदे नाचति धन्य धन्य हो प्रदक्षिणा सद्गुरायाची झाली त्वया सुरवया विमान उत्तरायाची कोटि ब्रह्मा हत्या हरति कैता दंडवता कोटि ब्रह्मा हत्या हरति कैता दंडवता लोटांगण घालिता मोक्ष लोडे भाया धन्य धन्य हो प्रदक्षिणा सद्गुरायाची झाली त्वया सुरवया विमान उत्तरायाची भजनांच्या महिमांकडे अगमा निगमांसी भजनांच्या महिमांकडे अगमा निगमांसी अनुभवते जाणतीचे गुरुपदीचे अहिवासी धन्य धन्य हो प्रदक्षिणा सद्गुरायाची झाली त्वया सुरवया विमान उत्तरायाची प्रदक्षिणा करुणी देह भावे वाहिला प्रदक्षिणा करुणी देह भावे वाहिला श्री अंगात्मल विठ्ठल बूढे उभा राहिला धन्य धन्य प्रदक्षिणा सद्गुराया रे वया सर्वया विमान दक्षिणा सद्गुरायाची झाली त्वया सुरवया विमान उतरायाची आरतिली जो अजय विनाशी पूर्ण नित्यानंद प्रकाशी पूर्ण मुक्तानंद प्रकाशी आरती लीजो हो नभ और धरणी आरती थाला चंद्र सूरज दो दीप उजाला नभ और धरणी आरती थाला चंद्र सूरज दो दीप उजाला अगर चंदन सब धूप बिराजे अगर चंदन सब धूप बिराजे झूला में उच्चवय तरुराशि आरती लीजो आरती लीजो अजय विनाशी पूर्ण नित्यानंद प्रकाशी पूर्ण मुक्तानंद प्रकाशी आरती लीजो ओ फूल वनस्पति है ये सारे सातों सागर जल की जाए फूल वनस्पति है ये सारे सातों सागर जल की जाए गगन अनाहत बाजे बाजे गगन अनाहत बाजे बाजे गाजे आगड़ यम पाजे आरती लीजो अजय अविनाशी पूर्ण नित्यानंद प्रकाशी पूर्ण मुक्तानंद प्रकाशी आरती लीजो हो चार प्रकार के अन्न गोपाला सोईते ओ भोग साला चार प्रकार के अन्न गोपाला सोईते ओ भोग साला लोक चतुर दिश मंदिरते ओ लोक चतुर दिश मंदिरते ओ घट घट आसन स्वयं विकासे आरती लीजो अजय विनाशी पूर्ण नित्यानंद प्रकाशे पूर्ण मुक्तानंद महावाक्य वेदन के जो है सोते ओ चरणामृत सो है। महावाक्य वेदन के जो है सोते ओ चरणामृत सो है। सदगुरु पुजारी देव चरणामृत सदगुरु पुजारी देव चरणामृत। ये नाय नय बंद विनाशे आयत लीजो आयत लीजो अज विनाशी पूर्ण नित्यानंद प्रकाशे पूर्ण मुक्तानंद प्रकाशे आयत लीजो ज्योत से ज्योत जगाओ सदगुरु ज्योत से ज्योत जगाओ। मेरा अंतर मेरा मिटाओ सदगुरु ज्योत से ज्योत जगाओ। हे योगेश्वर हे ज्ञानेश्वर हे योगेश्वर त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणां त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं mama deva deva. Dura kayo dukkha dard sab, daya kayo Bhagavan. Mana mandir mein ujjwal ho, तेरा निर्मल ज्ञान. जिस घर में हो आयती, चरण कमल चितलाग, तहाँ हरि वासा गए, ज्योत अनंत जगा. जहाँ भक्त कीर्तन कहे, बहे प्रेम दया, तहाँ हरि श्रवण गए, सत्य लोक से आ. सब कुछ दिया आपने, बेट करो क्या ना. नमस्कार की बेट करो, जोड़ू मैं दोनों हाथ. नमस्कार की बेट कर, जोड़ू मैं दोनों हाथ. ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ओम शांति शांति शांति. सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय.
Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. That brings us to the close of today's program. Thank you all for coming and for joining us on the live stream. A couple of things coming up. As July 1st, next Saturday, there's an intensive. It's from 10 to 4, and the title is The Sadguru is My Mother. So, wonderful title, and should be very devotional, and we look forward to seeing many of you here. So, and as well as that, we have Satsang next Sunday. Devyani will be back early this coming week, and she'll be sharing her experiences on Sunday, next Satsang on Sunday. On the third Monday, the following Monday, there's a global puja from 6 to 7 p.m. Another exciting thing that's coming up is that, well, I'm excited, that there's yoga. Yoga is becoming more prevalent here, Hatha yoga becoming more prevalent here at the ashram. A 5 a.m. yoga class has been conducted by Paula, by Luann for the last several weeks, and those have been very, very wonderful classes, and we thank her for doing that. She's going to be away for a couple of weeks, and Paula will be filling in for her at 5 a.m. So any of you that are staying in the ashram can come to a 5 a.m. class. That you're welcome to that. And even if you want to come from the neighborhood, you're welcome too. So we're hoping more neighborhood people will come in, and if you have friends that want to come and do yoga here, we're hoping to make this a place of Hatha yoga as well. So on that note, we're going to start 6 p.m. classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Paula will be conducting those evening classes as well as the morning classes on Monday through Saturday at 5 a.m. So it's 5 a.m. yoga and 6 p.m. yoga. The evening is just Tuesdays and Thursdays. And also Paula, who's just returned from her sojourn to Michigan, we'll be conducting a workshop that comes in 4 parts. It's called Balancing Mind and Body. There's more information on the board there, but it'll be a very comprehensive, in-depth program, 4 parts from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I encourage you all, especially the locals, to come and participate in that. So that's all I have for now. So we can come up for darshan, and that's to be followed by prasad. Sadguru Nath Maharaj Ki Jai.